Friends, today in Time with Thebsian on medical devices, we are trying to discuss on a particular medical device which is called left ventricular assist device. One of the major problems in cardiac diseases is the failure of the left ventricle to pump blood to the aorta, from where blood reaches various parts of the whole body. So the purified blood reaches left ventricle. From there it is pumped. But in certain people, this left ventricle alone gets weaker and weaker as they grow older and older. So it is a specific disease which only very few people are affected. But it's a grave disease because it is a terminal disease. Terminal in the sense that if you are not going to do something, this particular person has to die or meet death as the left ventricle becomes weaker and weaker. So in olden days, there was medication, but it helped only to extend life for 1 or 2 or 3, depending upon the health, otherwise health of the particular person. But the person will not be able to do any kind of work to earn a living. So this kind of persons was considered to be having a terminal disease. During earlier times, there was no idea of transplanting a younger heart to these patients who is suffering from left ventricle decay. So the major idea to make these people survive was to design and fabricate an artificial medical device or artificial pump which will take over the pumping of left ventricle. So the blood which is gathered in the left ventricle will be pumped into the aorta using a mechanical pump. And this pump is called a left ventricular assist device. So, left ventricular assist device was born to extend the life of patients who are suffering from the weakness of the left ventricle of the heart. But very soon it became very important. Transplantation of heart became possible. That means when a younger person meets with an accidental death or death with any kind of other diseases where his or her heart will not be affected. So that heart which is healthy could be transplanted into a patient whose heart is suffering from an ineffective or having left ventricular defect of the heart. When transplantations came into being, left ventricular assist device became a device which enabled patients who are waiting for a transplant to wait comfortably in good health till he or she receives a suitable heart for transplantation. So before 1968, heart transplantation was not practiced because it was considered unethical to get an organ of a person and put it into another person, because you need a dead person's heart or organ for transplant. So it was an idea which was seeded or which was born in the hearts of many senior surgeons. In the case of heart, there was a surgeon in Stanford University who was exclusively doing only cardiac surgeries. And he saw that the number of people who suffered from left ventricular defect is increasing as time passes. And he was not able to assist them to get a new lease of life, not life alone, new lease of healthy life. So while he was doing this idea, in 1968, he himself decided to try to transplant a dead person's heart into a sick and living person's heart. So in 1968, the first heart transplant was carried out. Left ventricular assist device is a pump, just like any water pump or any pump we use for pumping water or liquid or fluids. But their efficiency was designed in such a way, the pumping force was very moderate and adjust to the force that is equivalent to our normal heart beat. Plus, the inside of the pump is made up of such materials that when the blood enters the pump or blood is stored in the pump, and when the stored blood is pumped into the aorta, the blood doesn't clot or get adhered to any part of the pump or tubings that is connected or that is part and parcel of the pump. So the pump was made biocompatible. And it was so designed that the pump was so soft that it will not destroy blood cells or break red blood cells to create hemolysis. The engineers prepared a pump that is biocompatible so that it can be placed outside the heart, attached to the heart, or separately attached to the heart in the thoracic cavity. And the power of pumping was supported by a battery. So, in 1968, Dr. Norman Shumway in the Stanford University Hospital did the first transplant, was planning to carry out heart transplant in human beings in United States of America. And the patient survived. If you can look at the history of first transplant in the internet, you will see that the doctor was worried very much about the outcome of the surgery, because if the patient is not surviving, the whole world will be after him. They may be making a huge cry for his life for doing nonsense. But since the patient survived and he proved that a dead man's heart, when transplanted into a very sick person's heart, he can make a person survive. Another important point that came, or that was proved during 1968, was that the death of heart was not considered to be the death of the particular patient. That means if the heart is stopped, that doesn't mean the patient is dead. Only in 1960, between 1960 and 68, it was again decided that the death point is the death of the brain. So now we very often hear that different organs of a patient who met with an accident, but when he became brain dead, it was transplanted into 2 or 3 or 4 different patients. But this kind of a decision was reached in 1968, and after the successful heart transplant, the need for left ventricular assist devices also became large in number. The company who was manufacturing this device had to increase production to meet the demand for the left ventricular assist device. See, the left ventricular assist device is a wonderful device, but as I told you, it is made biocompatible. There is no clotting or destruction of various blood cell elements within the pump. The patient was able to survive till he gets a replacement or gets a suitable heart for transplant. But the problem was that the price of this device is very high. That means if a patient is opting for a left ventricular assist device, the price of the device, the price of implantation and maintenance of this device for next 6 years, it was more than $7 lakhs. So now you may be able to multiply 7 lakhs into 70 to calculate what will be the cost in rupees. The American people were able to afford it because of their medical insurance or because they are wealthy. But in our conditions, I am not very sure how many number of people will be able to use this equipment or this medical device. I searched and I was not able to get any idea or any information regarding the use of these devices in India. But since heart transplantations are possible, this machine is selling, and not without any problems, because from 2017 it was found that people who are using this for more than a year may face neurological problems, psychological problems, and great expenditure. So, in 1920, Abbott company came forward with a new model saying that this model will not produce any problems as mentioned for the earlier devices. That device is called HeartMate 3, and the earlier device is called left ventricular assist devices. The expenditure is the main cause of not using this equipment, and this is a very useful equipment to depend on, to wait for getting a proper and suitable heart for transplantation. Friends, let us wind up the presentation on left ventricular assist device, and this may be one of the costly medical devices which is available in the medical device forum for extending the period of terminal heart disease of the ventricle of the heart. And I thank you all for attending the Time with Thebsian session on medical devices. Kindly send your questions and comments to me, and do not forget, share this video with your friends and let them know about the importance and usefulness of watching this video. Also, I want to remind you that the same video is available in Malayalam also. Thank you very much.